Hi, boys and girls. I wanted to share with you very quickly a few of the items that I'll be bringing with me to Blade Show Texas 2022 coming up this weekend in just a few days. It's going to be at the Fort Worth Convention Center on March, 19th and 20th, whatever the Friday and Saturday is. So if you haven't been and it's an easy trip for you to make, I definitely suggest doing it. There's over 300 exhibitors. So it's not a tiny little show. It's like a baby Blade Show Atlanta, which is pretty damn awesome. There's a lot of amazing makers that will be there. I will be at booth 112, so please do come by and join me. Let's just very quickly get through this video. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. First off, for those of you that don't know, if you haven't seen the video, you haven't watched my posts, you know that I designed a flashlight not too long ago. It's being made by FocusWorks EDC. We will have a few of the Cylons available. I've got a two-tone blue, all bee blasted, a titanium just like my prototype here, and there will even be a full brass version with the full tritium treatment as well. These have a custom drag and driver built in, custom secondary colors, whatever color you choose when you order. Otherwise, the spec versions that I'm bringing to the show. Really super awesome lights. I will put a link at the end of this video to the Cylon videos so you can see all of the details and hear all of the specs about these lights, but it's pretty damn awesome. And I will have 4 of these available. Now let's get to the knives. That's what we're here for, right? First off is going to be a Hellraiser V2, and this particular version has a super cool feature, which I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate for you right now live on camera. These scales do absolutely glow in the dark. And who doesn't like shit that glows in the dark, right? And of course, I'll use my Cylon here to charge up the goodies. My God, look at that. Isn't that insane? Look how it's even glowing my hand. That's how bright and vivid this particular material is. The scale material is actually Jade G10, and then the topo, the topographical lines that are in here are done in some sort of glowing material. Very, very cool stuff. My first time working with Jade G10 this week. I did one knife you'll see in a minute that's all Jade G10. And then this. Once I showed this on Instagram, so many people bugged me about it that I'm going to be making at least 4 or 5 more knives with this material in different models. It's going to be a lot of fun. So a Hellraiser V2 with the hand rubbed satin flats and the high belt satin bevels and the glowing Jade G10 topographical scales. So there's a quick look at that one. That one I do expect to go pretty quickly. Next will be a knife that I just did a video on all about it, so you can check my most recent uploads and hear all the details about it. This is the Hellraiser V3, the newest variant of the Hellraiser family. Longer overall knife, sleeker, longer lower harpoon, and quite a lot of subtle changes, completely different handle shape as you can see. This particular, oh, by the way, on the first one I just showed you there, believe that one was Magna Cut. I have 3 Magna Cut knives that I'll be offering at the show this weekend. I'm just having a hard time remembering which ones right now are, and I don't have my COA cards with me. What I'll try to remember to do is right here on the screen, I will put some text up telling you what the steel is, so I'm not going to bother to mention it. So here is Hellraiser V3 number 1, the very first one I made after the prototype. This has Amboina burl scales in a hybrid style with the resin here in multiple colors, black, blue, white, and I think a little bit of red in there as well. Very, very nice stuff. High polish all the way around the outer perimeter. Hand rubbed satin flats with the high belt satin on all 4, actually 6 of the bevels, because I did bevel the finger guard just for the shit of it. That's part of the design now. And you have the Coke bottle shaped scales for extreme comfort. That's a very, very ergonomic knife. We have another Hellraiser V2. This one is done with the black G10 and the blue hex, where it starts off with a full hex pattern and kind of breaks off toward the back. I like this because it kind of had that retro 80s kind of vibe to it. So I really enjoyed doing this one. This has my dark granite finish on the flats, which is my version of a dark acid etched stonewash. And then the very high satin belt bevels on all four bevels. Just a nice classic Hellraiser V2. Very, very comfortable in the hand with the heavily contoured scales. Very rounded off, very, very comfortable in the hand. And of course the tapered tips. For those that have asked, tips obviously never get in the way of any cutting task because they're always going to be behind the plunge line of the blade. There we go. What else do we have here? One more Hellraiser V2. Now this one will not be available just because someone saw this when I posted it online and were so eager to get it. They wanted to do it. They wanted to go ahead and pay for it and do a pickup at the show, but I wanted to show the dark rub. This is a full hand rub satin blade with the dark acid etching. So this is my dark rub finish. This has the 80s camo carbon fiber scales with the colors that come through as you contour them. I went ahead and flame anodized the titanium hardware to bring colors out to go with the rest of the look. So that is it right there. A little bit more of a palm swell in these because if you go too far, if you're going to make these scales too slim, all you get is color and that's it. And this already had more color than I wanted it to be a little bit more subtle, but they're thick scales and by contouring them down as much as I had to make this work, it brought out a lot more of the colors. So it's going to be a little bit of a thicker handle on that one. Next up, the most budget-friendly offering that I will have all throughout the show. This is my Scaphoid model. Thank you to a doctor or whomever it was that had told me, it was right after I first started making these, I made a video, and I've always pronounced it Scaphoid because that's what I've always heard. And that, honestly, I only learned about the Scaphoid bones from motorcycling and glove manufacturers that make gloves that give you protection there and sliders there. And I've always heard it pronounced Scaphoid. So I've always said Scaphoid. And so I went, no, it's actually Scaphoid. And I can't tell you how hard it is to break that habit. Even internally in my mind as I'm making the knife, I have to say Scaphoid, Scaphoid, Scaphoid. But this is a more budget-friendly variation. So it's all bead blasted, a nice clean uniform finish with the orange G10 scales. I've always loved how orange or red looks up against that matte gray look of bead blasted steel. One new thing that I'm doing on Scaphoids now is I'm putting a 45-degree bevel right up here, leading into the top swedge so that you don't have any sharp area on the spine of the blade. And I'm changing the grind a little bit. It used to have a very pronounced plunge that ended right there. And what I'm doing now is I'm doing a more sweeping plunge that trails off the heel of the blade there. And that's going to make it easier for you when you go to resharpen the blade. You do get lifetime resharpening from me, so you don't ever need to do it, but I know some guys do enjoy doing that. So there is the look at this Scaphoid here. As I mentioned, it will be the more budget-friendly variation because of the simpler finish, no hand rubbing or anything like that. I did do the titanium hardware to match, bead blasted, so I really like how this one came out. It's more of a simplified look, but super slick in the color combination. Now, the actual very first time I've ever worked with Jade G10 was right here on this advanced Tibia. The advanced Tibia was born from the Tibia design. I wanted to make something that was wildly different, completely impractical grinds that make no sense. They just look really cool. Obviously, still very functional. It can cut and chop and all that kind of good shit. But I wanted to do something just crazy based off of the Warncliffe that I was making at the time, the Tibia. I really suck at making lanyards, but hey, I did pretty decent on this one. So you actually got a couple of different handholds here when you've got your pinky on there. But the advanced Tibia is designed with this forward finger choil so that you have a full grip on the knife. and it's very, very good for any kind of cutting task. You have complete control over it with that finger choil. The finger choil is rounded nicely and contoured so that it's nice and comfortable in the hand. There's no sharp edges. I make these to look like they're very 90-degree angles, but they are actually all very gently rounded off, as you can see. So you don't have to worry about any sharp edges engaging your fingers. So yeah, JG10 on there. This is just a dark acid etch that I did on the blade. Very happy with how that came out. And then as you see, the tricky part of this particular knife is bringing that top swedge all the way down to the tip. And why that's tricky is this gets down pretty thin. It would be very easy to burn off that tip and round it off and just singe it and burn it all the way off when you're doing that grind. So the challenge is to create a knife like this that looks this dramatic. And people that have made knives or really know a lot about knives realize how difficult that particular thing is. And last but not least, I'm going to have one of my Hellseekers. That's the knife that I make. It's a variation on the theme of a Hellraiser series with the very steep recurve, very big belly, no tanto tip. You've got that belly in the blade there. The harpoon is rounded and comes down into the tip. So it's a completely different blade shape. All of them are reverse compound grind. I prefer a reverse compound grind, so when you're cutting, you don't have a speed bump there that prevents you from being able to cut. You have the Coke bottle shaped scales on here. This is African blackwood with African blackwood liners, turquoise African blackwood, and oh, why am I blanking on what I used here? It's on the COA, which unfortunately I don't have sitting here in front of me. I'll try to remember to pop it up here. Titanium hardware, of course. And there is, come on, focus. There is that reverse compound grind. And you can see the high satin finishes all the way around. And that's a fun one. Now for a little bit of a surprise. For those of you that like the look of the advanced tibia, I am going to be releasing this year a folder, a flipper, a production flipper that everyone, and I mean everyone, will be able to afford. Now, maybe not everyone, but most people will be able to afford. What I'm going to show you right now are going to be the first pass and second pass prototypes. There will be differences, but I'm going to be running a special auction during the show, only for this show, for my only 2 prototypes. You'll be able to bid and get them both. Because when this knife comes out in a few months, I think you're going to really enjoy having the prototypes alongside your production knives. The initial concept was going to be a titanium integral. We did change away from that. I really wanted to do this starburst pattern coming out from the pivot. Really like that look, and I love how they feel in the hand. There is the blade. I don't really want to focus too much on there, but there is the blade. The blade is the thing that will remain the same. There's really no changes being made to the blade. As you can see, that is the advanced tibia profile. Some big changes from prototype number 1 is the frame is getting much slimmer. I didn't like how fat it came out. The clip was too skinny and wimpy, so that has been beefed up and modified, and it will not be an integral. So there is prototype number 1. Prototype number 2, we were experimenting with, instead of having the sunburst or starburst milled lines, doing a tapering inlay with carbon fiber and Timascus and stuff like that, and creating an island around the pivot. In the execution, however, I'm not a big fan, so we're not doing that. So we are going to have the starburst pattern. This was done as a clamshell version with just 2 titanium sides put together. That is changing. It's going to have a 3/4 length back spacer and a matching material to I'm sorry, I was going to say matching material to the inlay, but we stopped doing the inlay. So we're going to have, I believe we went ahead and did titanium back spacers on these. The blade, as you can see, is still the same grind. This one happens to be done in the all belt satin versus the black DLC. There will be blacked out versions though, yes, and there'll be a few different blade finish options available. You'll see a larger cutaway here to make accessing the lock much, much easier. We're going to go with a longer blade that fills up the frame a little bit more. This will be the clip that's going to be on the final production version. But again, there's a lot of changes from these two to the production, and I think people are really, really going to enjoy that. But for someone who likes to collect very rare things, these are the only two existing prototypes. There was a silver tone version of this prototype that a friend of mine has. Actually, my number one collector, he has like, I don't know, 18, 19 of mine eyes. He has the all silver version. I kept the all black. So these will be the only two that will ever be publicly available. These two are not going forward into the production. So what you're going to own if you win the auction are the only two like this. And this is the only existing prototype number 2. So in a few months, the production will come out and you'll see all the differences and all their glory. And I really am super excited about how that's going to turn out. But that's it. That's it for me for Blade Show Texas 2022. I have four flashlights available. All these knives available. Please do come by and see me at booth 112 on Friday or Saturday. I greatly look forward to meeting so many of you, shaking your hand, having a nice conversation, and of course, taking some of your money. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next video.